Hello everyone, and welcome to Empowering the Conscious Business Evolution Talk with me, Antonina Manev, for some fresh, thought-provoking and liberating conversations about inspiring the sparks of innovation and evolution and growing a bigger and a wider world of ethically successful and consciously evolving business environment. For those who tune in for the first time, I'm the founder of Visions Inspire Strategic Business Growth Consultancy. As a business strategist, my focus is on turning visions into profitable businesses, be it for startups or established businesses. So in my area of work, evolving the business consciousness is a key element. You can find out more about my inspiring work by visiting the website www.visionsinspire.com. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel or like my Facebook page or connect on LinkedIn with me. Business owners work with me, looking to increase usually their business cash flow and profits and create a secure financial future so they fully enjoy a greater lifestyle and balance. However, along the way, the main obstacle appears to be the uncomfortable mindset of conformity, which accepts limitations in business making and development, or even growing in order to fit in an old custom conventional framework of business making that holds them back, and all that at the expense of their true identity. But how we even start to break up these frames? Well, we'll have to try. In my interviews, video or audio, I will be introducing you to exceptional business leaders, owners, and creators who have reached great success in what they do, not because they worked hard to fit in, but by challenging the status quo and constantly innovating themselves and their businesses, by searching back to their authentic roots to follow the person-business environment connection, and by taking approaches of consciously evolving to align with a higher social and earth value through their creativity, identity, and co-creative forward thinking. So be prepared, all my guests have left valuable tips and inspirational words of wisdom for you to take and do your best to outshine the conventional and grow yourself and business aligned with higher values. All their interviews are playing on the Visions Inspire YouTube podcast channel. Happy listening and happy learning and growing. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Empowering the Conscious Business Evolution today. And I'm so excited to present to you Astrid Davies, founder of Astrid Davies Consulting, and also founder and innovator of the unique Optimum Coaching Framework and the Dota diagnostic tool, which she trademarked. Hello, Astrid, and I... Hello, and thank you for coming in today. Before we start our powerful blasting conversation today, I just want to quote something I picked from your LinkedIn profile. Is that okay? Okay. These are your words. I run an ethical business, striving to make my practice sustainable. I do not work with arms, tobacco, mining, fossil fuels processing companies. Wherever possible, my consultancy will support your workplace to be a happier, healthier, and greener place. I'm a change maker with the Change Makers Group, an international group of professional change consultants. So that's amazing. And your credentials are star credentials. So, yes, welcome, Astrid. And why leaders need change? Sorry, have you coffee? Yeah, cheers. I'm going to
Yes.
have mine.
Well, first of all, thank you very much indeed for the introduction, Antonina. Thank you for the opportunity of coming on your show. Really delighted. You know, we've known one another quite a few years, and it's lovely to be able to be part of this. It's fantastic. And to be part of your conscious revolution. Those words are a statement for me. I worked for a very long time for other people. And I was always having to compromise some part of my ethical framework. I wanted to make a change. I was trying to make a change in lots of different ways, but there was always a little something that was holding me back and stopping me. And since I've run my own consultancy, I have just put that as a statement. I have, in fact, since the most recent outpouring of unattractive behavior online following the 2020 Euros, I have now put "I am firmly anti-racist" in there too. And what I wanted to do was put something out there that said, this is me, a bit like the song, don't worry, I won't break into song. But this is how I work. And if you work with me, this is what you can expect. I mean, I'm an executive coach, I'm a change agent, I train people, I'm a mentor, but all of it is within that space. And the reason that I think it is so important is that often I come across people who are trained to be the best lawyer, the best accountant, the best engineer that they can be. They're very rarely trained to be the best human and the best human in leadership that they can be. And I have always wanted, through my practice, to make sure that people have that ability to improve the way they behave towards other people, because frankly, that just improves their bottom line.
Totally agree. But why they need to change? Can't they just stay safe in the status quo?
I would argue that staying in the status quo is one of the least safe things they could possibly do. If I just give you a little stat, it's quite an old stat, but it's still a goodie. Harvard Business Review, 4-ish years ago, put out a survey on leadership qualities and the most important leadership foci for leaders across the globe. All right. So it's 195 global leaders were consulted. 67% of them said that a strong ethical framework and a safe work environment were the top priority as a leader. Now, I'm quite happy to lean on those global industrial giants to say, yeah, I'm with these guys, because that is something that is hugely important. And it was important then, it's important now. Why is it important? Because there is still discriminatory practice embedded in businesses, and that can be any characteristic you want. We in the UK have 9 protected characteristics enshrined in law, but you know there are lots of other discriminatory practices around the world that can be tribal, that can be ethnic groupings within countries, all that stuff. There's also the climate emergency. The world is on fire, quite literally. And that is, you know, you see the sea boiling in the Gulf of Mexico and actually on fire because of a breached pipeline, because we're taking stuff out that we need. I'm not naive enough to say we don't need it, but we're not managing that process in a way that is sensitive to the environment or indeed to the employees of the firms. There's lots of different pressures. There's the financial crisis for 2008, which has cast a very long shadow. And then there is the financial crisis globally that's been associated with the latest COVID pandemic. And I doubt it'll be the last. And the things that are coming out from my research, from the research I've done actually with the change makers, research that I'm doing with clients and other material that I read, is that people are saying enough is enough. The customer base are saying enough is enough. the employees are saying enough is enough, and the businesses are taking that and hearing that.
Are they?
That gives me joy. That does give me joy. But one of the other things that I do is that I run and that is also trademark, I run an outfit called Future Leaders, and the Future Leaders Club, and I run their networking events, currently running in the south of England, but I'm open to opening them up nationwide because they're hugely successful when it's face-to-face is allowed. And the thing that I set that up specifically to do was provide that ethical leadership framework for people starting out on their leadership journey. And that is so important because they're working so hard to take all their exams and qualify as lawyers or qualify for the bar or qualify as surveyors and get their Emirates or whatever. And God knows banking and insolvency have huge amounts of exams that they keep having to take. But none of it is around keeping themselves safe in the workplace, keeping their employees, and I mean emotionally safe as opposed to
the well-being.
Yeah, it's the well-being to a business end. It is the being a decent human to a business end. It is fundamentally better for your business to have ethical practices and inclusive practices, because then that encourages, pink pound, grey pound, brown pound, whatever trope you want to use. Any group that is excluded by your firm won't give you money. In this day and age, I think that's a bit of a niche approach, to be honest. You broaden out your approach to make sure you broaden out your customer base and enable them to pay you.
Exactly.
Seems logical to me.
Yeah, totally logical. And what I noticed from my end of work is that group of excluded people that feel they don't fit in the old custom rules and framework schemes, that group is growing. That group is growing. And they are looking for inspiration to be able or permission or ways how to go forward, how to change things. They are looking, and some are just sitting and thinking about it and becoming aware that they actually need that thing, that change, and a way to be shown to them how to do it better in a in a environmentally friendly way, meaning wellness, healthier lifestyle, if you like. Everything that just showed up during the lockdowns, and people are growing numbers. They don't want to go back to the old. They don't want to go back to the old. They want to have the change, to experience the new things. And
I agree absolutely, Antonina. There was a fantastic post that was put out. I saw it on social media, but I don't know whose words they were. But it was written. There was writing that was on the side of a wall, like a big mural, and it was basically saying people want to get back to normal. It was never normal. The old normal was utterly dysfunctional. It exploited people. It didn't encourage any kind of organizational buy-in for employees. It exploited customers. It exploited the earth. It was dysfunctional. Let's build a new normal.
Well,
and I love that. I really love that. And I think that ethical leadership is a fantastic way to do that. And it isn't all, Hessian suits and knit your own lentil. It isn't that sort of right-on approach. This is a hard-nosed business approach. Do the right thing the right way the first time. You save yourself money and you please the customer better. I genuinely don't understand why folk don't invest a very small extra percentage of their time and cash to do that, because that's, for me, that is a massive marketing and market placement trick that they're missing.
And also return on investment, as you say, just invest a little bit. The return on investment actually spreads across, is huge, and spreads across so many levels, and gosh. So let's look at the vision. What the leader of a new age organization looks like and sounds like and feels like. You like?
I love that. There was actually in the UK there is the CIPD, which is sort of the home of human resources. Now that's not my background. I was never in HR. They'd have thrown me out quite quickly, I think, but too maverick. But
too maverick. Did you say too maverick? I was. Oh gosh, we're gonna come back to this. I was banned from the BNI.
Feel free. But I mean, in terms of HR, because HR has evolved to be the bastion of the employment processes. You know, and I completely sympathise that that's quite a thankless task on occasions, particularly when you're dealing with people like me. Anyway, the CIPD held a hackathon late last year, 2020, and they asked folk from across sort of, you know, British commercial sector what it was that they saw as the future of leadership for 2030. And they were looking really closely at, okay, what's this next normal going to be like, guys? And the key pointers, what's going on outside the workplace has to drive what's going on inside the workplace, which I love. Role adaptive leaders, so the agile mindset from process improvement that then came into project management increasingly now is being adopted in mainstream leadership pursuits. And that is, you know, flexibility, accountability that is not blame, freedom to fail in a constructive way, take calculated risks so you learn through practical experience and make sure you improve your processes and your behaviors as you go along. You know, making sure that you engage with your stakeholders and your employees, all sorts of different ways of defining agile. Nesta have a very good definition of agile and innovative leadership practices if you're needing that. Increased digital awareness, that's obvious. Challenging, you'd hope that they didn't need to say it, but hey. Challenging discrimination and tolerance, you know, tolerance of any discriminatory practice, be it, you know, I'm 56 in a couple of months, so people my age being discriminated against in the workplace. That's because they're too old, they've had it. Well, you know, I'm reasonably lively and I can make a point or two. I don't think that I am past my prime quite yet. Excuse me. But that when change is introduced, it's introduced hand in hand with good practice, and that responsible businesses, which is CSR, you know, corporate social responsibility, it isn't just going and painting a park bench for the local old people's home as a group once a year. You know, that's not enough anymore. There has to be something that has a lasting impact on the community that you serve or the community where your business is based. And also sustainable practices. I've got a piece of research live at the moment where I've done it for the change makers, and one of the lowest scoring elements of where people are going to be investing their change focus is the sustainable supply chain. They're insane. Having a supply chain for your business that is not looking at sustainable practices means you are a hostage to climate fortune. Good luck with that, chaps.
Out of business, out of relationships, out of...
Yeah. So the fundamental thing that from the CIPD is that purpose is key. You asked me why it's so important, because there is this coming together and realization that purpose, a shared, common, positive purpose, employee, stakeholders and customers, suppliers, and employer, everybody has it in their best business interests to have positive, ethical, sustainable purpose at their heart, because it just makes business sense.
Absolutely. Totally agree with this. So I was listening to you and you just came to my mind and I wrote it down so I don't forget it. So
a woman after my own heart.
individualism versus co-creating. Now, in my mind, what I'm struggling with is, it's not that I'm struggling with, but these are the challenges that I notice in the business making sphere. Individualism, people are still holding on to their individualism in a very stagnated way.
Yeah.
Versus co-creation and sharing. Is this something the leaders find as a challenge?
Yes.
Okay, tell me about it.
But inevitably they will, because
Why?
leaders are encouraged to be individual. They're encouraged. The kind of I would argue, old-fashioned leader as hero trope is not actually meaningful anymore. You know that is a kind of Wellingtonian kind of old school thing. It died a death in the First World War at the start of the 20th century, if you ask me. But there is something around leadership needing to a leader needing to understand who they are, so they may lead the people that they lead better. And let's be clear, just because you're in charge of a group of people doesn't make you a leader. You are only a leader if people are prepared to be led. Colin Powell said that if soldiers stop bringing you their problems and they stop paying attention to you, they feel that you are not going to take them seriously, or you're not going to do anything about it. And both of those are a failure of leadership. So
how many leaders like this you come across in your practice?
What, a day?
I like that. Okay.
Several.
Okay.
No, I have clients who are firmly in that space. And that's because they have come to leadership through a profession. See above. They've come to it through a profession where they were taught that perfection is the goal. They were taught that accuracy is the goal. They were taught that dominance is the goal. Not having your people happy to be led so that they do better jobs for you as the goal. I think that in addition to it being a complexity for leaders to try and think about themselves as individuals, you also have, I would argue, an even greater challenge for leaders, which is tussling with the individuality expectation that's in their heads often against how to collaborate. Umpteen graduates in the UK every year are selected through these god-awful things called assessment centres. Now, I had my fair share and flopped most of them. And what you have to do is show that you're a leader while still working alongside people, which is an utterly artificial way of doing it. Because when you're in a senior leadership team, private, public, voluntary sector, it doesn't matter. You don't get to do the individuality piece. You do the collective piece, because if you don't work together, you sink. And that is the aim, really, of my kind of emphasis on an ethical framework. Part of it is how you work together. So it's not just the great I am for this new leader, this developing leader, this extremely experienced leader. I do a lot of executive, C-suite coaching. It's not just how they are, it's how they fit. Because it's that fit as a leadership team that works so well. At the time that we're recording this, there's quite a lot in the press about leadership, and a gent called Gareth Southgate, who's the manager of the England team.
Yes.
Football team. Soccer, for those who aren't in the UK. And he is one of the first to say, I'm delighted that everyone's nice to me, but it's not just me, it's all the other people on the leadership team. And that is a crucial message. And there's lots and lots and lots of, words that are being typed into WordPress at the moment about, Southgate's leadership style, and I won't take up airspace with that because there's lots of other people who are doing it. But there is something to be said for that understanding of a collective. So a team is important at a delivery level. A team is important at a supervisory and managerial, measuring what you do to check your progress level. I argue that there is a team mindset which needs to respect the needs of the individual, but also of the collective whole at that C-suite level. And even a chief operating officer, even the managing director, even the chief executive, even the chairman or chairperson needs to understand that they are part of a team. I like to think that the whole organization would feel like that. And that doesn't always happen. And I have diagnostics that I run that help organizations see how to do that. Actually, and that, I love doing that.
And that was going to be my next question. What is your cure, let's say, for a case like you just described? Okay, take it. I know it is a vast thing, starting from the bottom, the managerial, the top, the chairman, and all this. But just select one of these tiers, and what would be your cure with everything that you have developed?
Well, I would use I have a diagnostic approach called DOTO, and it is just going in, understanding it, diagnosing what the actual issue is, not going way beneath the surface. Really observe, make sure that I get to the heart of what is needed from a technical point of view, and then we get agreement on a way forward. So DOTA is not that technical. But in addition to using that framework, I use, they are always easy to understand. The products, the third-party products that I use. There's a fantastic diagnostic called An Even Better Place to Work that I use, and that is a needs-based assessment. And that is anonymous, online, and people answer 27 questions right across the authority, right across the company, right across the charity, whoever it is. And Siemens, PepsiCo, Great Ormond Street use this, so it's a big thing. It can cope with big scale. I'm also using it in two small, in my own practice, I'm using it in two quite small organizations right now, under 30 employees in both. And what it does is it enables the quieter voice, the people who don't feel they have a voice, the people who are disaffected but think it'll be bad for their career progression if they open their mouths.
Yes.
They don't get to write anything, they just get to score from 0 to 6 in terms of how the organization is doing on a number of things. And the reason I love it is because it gives the top brass in an organization a real kind of in-your-face, completely objective, completely anonymized picture. And feedback actually is a massive part of everyone that I have come across so far. And that is how people receive feedback on how well they're doing, as opposed to just turning up, being given a piece of paper, being given the annual rollicking and then sent packing. And apparently that nonsense is an appraisal. So there's quite a lot of stuff there about the ethical leadership behaviors in terms of team engagement, team development. I don't like to call appraisals performance management. I like to call them performance development because they're growing.
Yes.
And then when you've grown your understanding, it can then be a good thing to grow your team. And that's where I use DISC, the DISC that's been around coming up nearly 100 years now. It's a very traditional.
I'm just looking at my diploma, the DISC, the DISC diploma, 2014.
Yeah, well, you and I played together. So yes. I mean, the thing is that there is something really powerful about the simplicity of it, but actually
Yes.
it's a very nuanced and elegant model. I use the People Keys one, which is the original one from original introducers of it from the United States. And it produces reports and people fill them in online. But what it does is it enables people to say, rather than I don't like the way you do that, or you drive me nuts when you do X, Y, and Z, to say, oh, okay, so if I did that, that would help you so you don't do that. Oh, well, now I get it. And that's hugely powerful for teams and small groups where you're trying to get people to understand how they make a whole together. You know, there are lots of others. You know, I use others. Performance leadership indicator is one, which is specifically around leadership performance potential and the latent potential in leadership that people don't use. So that fits in well as well. And there are lots of, you know, there are others. I find those work really powerfully for clients. But what they tell them is how to do what they're really good at, where they need to work a little bit harder to do things differently, and how they can make things even better for people. And that's the bit that I want them to get their heads around. It's about working together, team again, in a framework that is around getting their emotional needs met. And it's not as in woohoo, it's just as in I feel valued. I have a sense of value. People understand, people talk to me civilly, you know, basic stuff. Getting that sorted out. And so people know what they need to know to take the informed leadership choices that will take their business on and up.
And I suppose when you present them the results from the diagnostics you perform, there is an element of resistance from the top.
There can be, but my answer to that is, well, why are you wasting your time and mine having this conversation if you don't want to listen? I don't say it quite that brutally.
Okay.
But that is that's the clear message from it, because the leadership is about choices. We are the product of our choices, not necessarily just our environment. It's our response to those choices. You know, Covey tells us this, Viktor Frankl tells us this. There's lots of different scholarly writing out there that talks about how we as individuals react to our environment is crucial, right? The whole nature-nurture thing. But it's also how we choose to behave once we've done that bit of reaction.
How we choose. It is exactly, that's the key. How we choose to behave.
Absolutely. Which is why I love your thing about conscious business
business evolution.
Absolutely. It's the conscious piece I love, because, obviously I love the other bits too, but it's the fact that people are doing it knowingly.
Yes.
They need to understand the elements of leadership in business that are performed knowingly. And what I do is I often coach using something that everyone thinks is terribly hackneyed, which is the coactive coach and grow model, except I use an Australian amendment to it, which is growth. And I like this: goal, reality, option, will for your coaching, tactics and habits. What will you do that turns it to your advantage but not others' disadvantage? And what are you going to change so it sticks?
In your habit.
And I really like that mnemonic, and it does work for my clients because they make changes that stick. It's very easy as a coach, and you'll know this, to help your clients make changes, and then they can slip backwards. I don't do that. I like to work with people. So it's like a funicular railway, the railway we have up cliffs, often in the south of England here. And you start at the bottom, chug your way up to the top. And if the band breaks, you go straight back to the bottom, and it's a really unpleasant, dangerous mess. What you find is that they put sleepers across to break the fall. What I always think is that coaching, the right executive coaching that gives people the tools that they can then own and use, puts a sleeper in up at halfway, so they can never get back to where they were.
I love that.
They can't unknow it and unlearn it.
I love that metaphor. So how can we help develop our authenticity as leaders, as business makers, to harmonize all the positiveness of the change, how we evolve our authenticity so it matches. Okay, now it's a deeper question, but many people are struggling at the moment, trying to match their authenticity and their identity, because that's their values, with creating the wrap of their business around it, so that it is actually speaks them. Just like you have created what you do around your authenticity, how other people can follow that.
I think that there is a danger within authenticity, that authenticity can give people random consent to behave appallingly because I'm just being true to myself.
Yes.
So there has to be some understanding that authenticity has to be tempered by the social good.
Exactly.
You know, I am not a libertarian. I state it openly. I'm not one of these people who thinks that I should be free to do whatever I want and it doesn't matter because it's my freedom. And the reason I think that, not getting into the politics bit, but the reason I think that in a business context is because you cannot behave as an individualist. I mean, I'm a solopreneur. I have a lovely group of associates, but I am fundamentally an entrepreneur. All right. So I am on my own with the inspiringly named business. It was actually named that because of all the.
It is.
As an aside, anybody out there trying to register a business with Companies House in the UK, don't bother if you've got a name starting with A. Oh, it's purgatory. Anyway, because I am my brand, I could behave like a complete menace and be authentic if I wanted to be naughty about it. I choose not to because that's obviously not terribly good economically, but also because there is a difference between my personal brand as a leader in my business and my business's brand. Now, obviously, for me, the business brand is aligned with my personal brand, but they're not the same thing. Now, if you look at the chief operating officer of a massive PLC, they may well have their own personal style and brand of leadership. And it may not necessarily match the branding of the whole organization. But what it needs to do is be authentic to who that individual is, in as much as they bring individuality to their leadership role. So it's not just, another dollop of grey school mash, another pale, stale male bloke in a grey suit, And that they do that knowingly, consciously, meshing that back into the company's values, but also they do it consciously, listening to their team and working with their values. There is so often a massive gulf between your C-suite, your nearly but not quite, they're almost at the top table and they ache to be at that top table, but they're a few grand short. And then there's the middle management, often characterized as this kind of clay layer of stodge and obstruction, which is utterly unfair. And then you have supervisors, and then you have the people who are doing a huge amount of the actual production, contact with the client, whatever. what I always encourage to maintain that authenticity of individuals is to make sure that people are keeping in contact 360 degrees. In other words, they keep in contact up, they keep in contact with their peers, they keep in contact with their reports, and they keep in contact with themselves to check on that authenticity. And that keeps people centered all the way through.
Mm-hmm. So what I take out of this is always keep in sync your authenticity with the organizational values 360 degrees.
Yeah, and if your values, I mean, my values on occasions have not matched those of the employer, and I have left, and I've left and taken pay cuts and all sorts, because I could not keep working in organizations where I didn't share their values. And that is just me. I'm not recommending that other people do something quite that foolish.
Yeah, but many people are doing it, Astrid. Many people are doing it. They are leaving their jobs because of that mismatch. Of that mismatch, because the need is growing. The need for change is growing. And I always, I do love to quote. Do you remember that film with Keanu Reeves, When the Earth Stood Still? When the professor at the end, when Keanu Reeves' character asked him why, and the professor told him, because at the precipice, we change. At the precipice, we change.
Yes.
We are at the precipice. We have the chance to make that change.
Or we can run headlong like unprincipled lemmings. Lemmings are not unprincipled, but we would follow our lack of moral fibre over the precipice, is what I'm saying. I think that there's a lot of scope for hyperbole. I think that there has been hand-wringing, and an assortment of different things in the past decade have been described as Project Fear. I don't understand what it will take for people to understand the climate crisis is real and should have been solved years ago. It is my generation and the generation prior, or ours, I guess, and the generation prior, who are massively responsible for the growth in emissions. But yet it's a kind of, I heard people on the radio recently saying, it's almost people's civil right to be able to go off on holiday and jet wherever they want to. That's not a lead, and that was from someone in a position of leadership in the country. And I just thought, well, actually, that's not really terribly responsible leadership. I mean, on a personal level, I don't agree with it anyway. But there's a wider issue around the leadership stance that people take, and leaders have to acknowledge that the precipice is there, but it's not inevitable that we go over it. What I don't encourage any of the leaders I work with to do is run back down to the edge of the volcano and just keep drilling into the volcano to see where else they can get lava out, just in case. That doesn't work.
That's another beautiful metaphor.
But making things worse, because you might as well enjoy it while the sun shines, because the sun's going to stop in a few years. I don't get that. That's not how I'm made. I know it's how some people are made, not how I'm made. When I work with leaders, I will always encourage them to think, what is it that your people and your business need of you? What is it that you're required to be? A business associate of mine always says, be the leader that others turn to. I completely agree with that.
That's such a huge question. That's such a huge question.
But it is, in the moment, what does it take to demonstrate leadership that is responsible and ethical? Well, sometimes, go back to what I was saying before, do the right thing for the right reason, the right way the first time. Now, right reason, huge and ambiguous. Right thing, huge and ambiguous. I do understand that these are glib, soundbitey things. but a little bit more research and a little bit of understanding, for instance, around the supply chain issue, can transform a business. There's a huge increase in B Corp, businesses signing up to the Sustainable Development Goals, the UN's SDGs that are sustainable goals for 2030. You know, wake up, people. That's 8.5 years away that we are meant to have put an end to an awful lot of things.
No one thinks about it yet. No one thinks we need to raise the awareness. We need to empower people to take the path towards it, and we're running out of time.
I always say that I want to help, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to say that I do now work in the sustainability and green space. Not exclusively, but I love supporting businesses in that space, because I'm helping that sector catch up on 200 years of dirty industry. And I want clean industry to take over from that. I want clean industry to be providing the jobs so that we stop the damage. So then we can start doing stuff that actually ameliorates where we can and improves things, but at least keep digging stuff out. And that's why I have in my my LinkedIn profile that I won't work with these organizations. They've had enough help. I'm only a little teeny weeny element of growing other industrial progress, but I want that industrial progress to be that way, not that way.
We all kind of feel teeny weeny grains of sparks, but when you line them up all together, we create and we influence what's around us to become a better place. And this is why you work with your associates together on project. I work with my associates as well to bring up that next level, to take people to the next, help them to go to the next level. Not in a other world. No. Okay, I think it is time to because people will want to get in contact with you. What would be the best place for them to find you? I know LinkedIn and all this, but would you like to spell it out?
Well, I kind of am, in a TikTok-y sort of way, unsubtle. That's me. The easiest way for people to get in touch with me is the get in touch section on my website, oddly. And that is AstridDaviesConsulting.com, and it's Davies with an E, the Welsh sort. And I don't charge for chats. I have a Calendly on there. Just book yourself a slot that works for you. If it's on Calendly, it'll work for me. Let's have a chat. Let's just have a chat about how you're struggling with the challenges that you're facing right now. It might be that you've got improvements to bring in. It might be that you're being expected to bring in improvements and you haven't got a clue where to start. It may be that actually your behaviors are starting to ruffle feathers and you need some help to smooth them down again. Any of those sorts of things, anything else that's on your mind that you think a piece of leadership development or change consultancy or one of those diagnostics can help, please get in touch. Very happy to hear from people. Always delighted to talk about what I do, as you can possibly tell.
Yes.
And it's really that simple. And I always allow that sort of chemistry session. There's not an expectation that people will work with me. It's just pop in, see if I can help.
Just pop in a conversation. See what you get out with. I do follow your social media posts, and they're always very, very informative, and sometimes with challenging questions or thought-provoking statements. And I always feel the urge, I do like to have a conversation about this, to take it further, to find out more. So definitely, viewers, listeners, if they come across your social media post as well, yes, that's the right word. Just pick up, be brave, pick up.
Yeah.
the
LinkedIn, web, Instagram, Facebook. I'm a bit slow on since they changed it. I can't understand how it looks on my laptop anymore. It's useless. But my 18-year-old daughter is my Insta queen, so she guides me on that. So at least I've got an expert on my team on that one.
Oh gosh, right. And we are coming nearly the end of that beautiful conversation we're having, and I can carry on with you. You know that, speaking for hours and hours and mashing and brainstorming together, which we have done in the past.
Yeah, but we're solving things. That's the point. It's not just moaning. That's the bit I like. Is we're actually putting forward positive proposals.
Yes. So if you have any thing to say, like tips or words of wisdom, what would you choose them to be? They can be 1, 2, 3, 5, whatever. And I'll shut up here and I shall listen to you.
Very simply, when I set up in business, I had been made redundant. I moved to a new area, a new house, so I had to set that up and get that in order. Settle kids into new schools. I turned 50 and had a new hip. So if, there was a reasonable amount of adversity going on. I knew no one, had no contact. What I didn't do was I didn't trust my instincts. I went with what I thought I should. Tony Robbins says that we go around shoulding all over ourselves, and I completely agree. For people who are starting out or people who are looking at making changes in their lives, trust your instincts. And when you trust your instincts, you trust your instincts about your direction, but also your people. And wherever you can, have expert friends. Know people that you trust, whose advice you trust. And that takes some time to curate that list, but it is worth that time. And I'm so thankful that I have built up a list of trusted advisors. And that was because I realized, fortunately not too late, that I needed to just trust my instincts. Because I think that when you know that something is wrong and you keep on going because you expect, it's an expectation, if it is not what you want, if you don't have the appetite for that, you're probably in the wrong direction.
Wow. I love the way you phrased it. And you pointed to the camera. Yes.
Sorry.
Trust your instincts. No, that was beautiful. Trust your instincts. Trust your experts.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was beautiful. That was a blasting. That was powerful. Gosh. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Antonina. Thank you. It's been such fun. Thank you so much for the opportunity of sharing this conversation with you. Lovely to see you as always. And I hope that this conversation helps a lot of your clients.
My clients, your people, let's get it out.
Everybody out there.
Let's get it out. Okay. Thank you very much. And dear viewers, dear listeners, carry on listening and watching us over and over again, because I guarantee you will come across things that you maybe have missed the first time round, but there is lots of depth here going on. Thank you once again, Astrid Davies Consulting. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that was your inspiration to continue empowering your conscious business evolution today. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I hope our conversations will help you take your own steps toward innovating and evolving as a conscious business by making choices for the benefit of people, communities, and environment. If you have any questions to my guests, I will leave their contact details in the description of this post. If you'd like to come to the show and share your wisdom, you're more than welcome. Please write to me to antonina@visionsinspire.com. But definitely have a listen to all previous interviews and do subscribe to the Visions Inspire YouTube channel for my next show for more inspiration on being part of our conscious business evolution together. Please give Visions Inspire your like on Facebook and follow on Twitter and Instagram. And do share with others to listen, spread the word, grow the knowledge. That's the spirit of the conscious business evolution. Till next time, from me, Antonina Manev, your business growth strategist, turning visions into profitable businesses, and always here to empower the conscious business evolution. Thank you, and till next time.